To the July 8th, 2026 Ashland Parks and Recreation Commission business meeting. We have a couple of commissioners, and I see Commissioner Adams on the screen there that are connecting remotely, but I'm going to start. We have a quorum, and then we'll get into the first part of the agenda. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Weiner.
Here.
Commissioner Bachmann.
Here.
Commissioner Garden.
Here.
Commissioner Adams.
Here remotely.
And Commissioner Lant, we're hoping will join us soon.
Thank you. Approval of the minutes, I believe Commissioner Gardner has a correction.
Yeah, I motion to approve the minutes with one correction. Just the last set of minutes showed me not in the roll call, so I just asked for my name to be added to that. I was at that meeting.
And
otherwise, I'd move to approve.
Thank you. And as for the record, this is the meeting, business meeting of June 10th, 2026.
Right.
I'll second with the addendum or amendment.
Thank you. Either of you like to speak to them? I guess Commissioner Gardner already has. Anybody else have any corrections? Okay. Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Weiner. We're doing a roll call vote.
We're voting.
Sorry, poorly multitasking.
We're doing a
voting
roll
on
call
the
vote.
motion.
Oh, yes, approved.
Commissioner Bachmann.
Yes.
Commissioner Gardner.
Yes.
Commissioner Adams.
Yes.
Okay, minutes approved.
There are no additions or deletions to the agenda. We have one gentleman who would like to speak to the pool, about the swimming pool, and that is Andrew Del Carlo, and I'll ask him to step up to the podium, which I believe is on, and tell us again your name and your city of residence, and you'll have 3 minutes to tell us what you want to tell us.
Hey, my name's Andrew Del Carlo. I live in Oregon. I'm a member of the Rogue Valley Masters swim team. I've been swimming with the team for approximately 6 years at Daniel Meyer Pool. Daniel Meyer is aging and currently requiring lots of maintenance. And I worry about what would happen if Daniel Meyer were to stop functioning. So I'm here to speak about the importance of having a viable and functional year-round pool for all age groups in Ashland. Pools are a vital community resource. They offer a place to connect, exercise, and learn valuable safety skills. A busy, well-functioning pool develops a robust community full of swimmers, people doing water aerobics, kids learning to swim, water polo players, kayakers, scuba practice, jobs for lifeguards. And I grew up in Ashland. I went to Ashland schools. I learned to swim at Daniel Meyer. I hung out with friends there during summers in high school, and I learned to play water polo, and I lifeguarded there in the summer. And after I graduated high school here, I played water polo in college. And later, as an adult, I've moved around the country and played different master's programs, and it's allowed me to connect with the communities that I travel to. And these opportunities wouldn't have been available to me had I not had access to a pool in Ashland growing up. And so there's precedent for towns of Ashland size to have large year-round pools. Hood River and the Dalles in Northern Oregon are examples of this, and similar communities to Ashland. And so I'm asking for Parks and Rec to make planning a year-round pool a priority for Ashland and its community members. Thank you.
Thank you. And a second request has just come in, and that gentleman, I believe, is Barney Spirka? Is that Spira? Okay, thank you. So again, if you just repeat your name for the record and your city of residence.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the last.
City of residence?
260 Skycrest Drive, Halled Strawberry Park borders my house and back of my house there. But that's not why I'm here tonight. About 50 years, I'm an old guy. I'll be 96 this year. So I'm an old guy. About 50 years ago, I was working for Pan American Airways. I was on a layover in Paris, walking down the street with a beautiful stewardess, of course. We heard some music. And so we followed the music to a local park in Paris, and it was a carousel. Now, who can resist a carousel? So, of course, we got on the carousel, had a nice ride, And I've never forgotten that moment in Paris there. And I thought, well, why can't Ashland have a carousel? And I'm wondering if you would consider it. I would be willing to make a $100,000 donation to start it off if we could get a campaign going to have a carousel in one of our parks. I did a little bit of research here. The Bouchard Gardens in Vancouver, I don't know how many of you have been there. In 2008, they put a carousel in the Rose Garden. And they charge $2 a ride, $20 for an 11-ride ticket. And they have 30 horses made out of wood. Now they're making them out of plastic, which means no maintenance, so it might be a better deal to go that way. So they must be making money on it. I would like you to look into it to find out who built it and how much it would require, how much it would generate in sales. I was thinking we could put it opposite the Lincoln Memorial. The Lincoln people that don't, we used to have a Lincoln Memorial there, and somebody cut his head off there. And they took the statue down. Where is that statue now? Do you guys have it someplace? In the attic. Anyway, in that grassy area there would be a great place for a carousel, because all those businesses around there would prosper from there. The Chamber of Commerce told me we had 220,000 visitors last summer. We used to have 350,000 visitors before COVID, but now it's down to 220,000. How many of those could resist riding on a carousel? And so I would like the Parks Commission to look into this and see if it's viable or not.
Thank you, sir, and thank you for your kind offer. We heard you.
There is one in Salem, by the riverside in Salem there. And a famous one in Santa Cruz where you go around, you grab the ring, and you throw it in the clown's mouth. Yeah. Anyway, that's my thought there. You might keep me in mind if you think you're going to go ahead with it. I'd like to be on the committee or something, or subcommittee on that one.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That brings us to the number 6 item on the agenda, which is the consent agenda, and we have the Trails Advisory Committee meeting minutes of November 19th, 25. Without objection, we'll pass that one by unanimous consent. And on to 7, which is business. We have 6 items tonight, pretty busy agenda, and the first item is employment of the Parks Director, job description, and our Deputy City Manager, Jordan Rooklin, will take us through that.
Great. Good evening, Commissioners. Happy Wednesday.
And just for the record, Commissioner Lant is now within the meeting remotely.
All right, perfect. Well, thank you all. As you, as Commission, are aware, we have over the last month been working on a second round of edits to the job description for the Parks Director role. And I want to say a big thanks to all of you who've been working with me via email and one-on-one meetings to really get it polished and in the direction that the committee wants to go. Some of us were more successful than others with technology, but we work together. And so before you all is the updated draft of that job description. I'm happy to walk through the changes. They've been included in your packet via track changes so that you can see where the differences are from the one proposed last meeting. And I'm happy to take any questions.
Any questions for the Deputy Manager? Commissioner, Gardner.
Sure, thanks. Well, I just want to thank you for working, I think mostly with Commissioner Lant to incorporate the changes that he thought were important for this document. And I assume that the three of you worked on it, and I just appreciate that extra work that went into from the original draft to where this is today.
Thank you. Commissioner Adams.
Thank you. Yeah, I wanted to say similarly, thanks for all the work and the editing that went in. Looking at the final product, the only thing that I was confused about was in the minimum qualifications section, we name a bachelor's degree in Parks and Recreation or related field as a minimum qualification for the job. And then just after that, we say that a bachelor's degree would count towards 4 years of the 9 years of leadership experience, which seems redundant and inconsistent for me. If it's a minimum requirement, then we're requiring a bachelor's degree. If we need 5 years of leadership in addition to that, then we should just say 5 years of leadership. It reads as if we say that the bachelor's degree counts towards 4 years of leadership, that it's not actually a minimum qualification, if that makes sense. And other than that, I thought it was great. That's a long document to only have one complaint about.
No, does make sense, and that did not pass through the final does it make sense review, so thanks for catching that. If you all want to adopt as amended, to be clear, the amendment would be to change the level of experience needed to 5 years, since we are requiring a bachelor's degree as well.
So just to be clear, it's a bachelor's degree and 5 years?
Oh, maybe I need to.
Perfect, thank you. Yeah. Whatever feels best for the commission, but yes, what I'm understanding from Commissioner Adams' comment is to require a bachelor's degree and 5 years of experience. And as a reminder, with all of our job descriptions, we also allow substitution by experience at the discretion of the hiring body.
Is that what your intent was, Commissioner Adams?
Just if a bachelor's degree is the minimum requirement, then it shouldn't substitute out for leadership experience. That we should either say bachelor's degree and 9 years, or we should say bachelor's degree and 5 years, if it's in fact the minimum requirement.
Okay,
I think the latter option, which is what Deputy City Manager Rooklyn stated, which is bachelor's degree and 5 years, is what makes the most sense to me. I see that Commissioner Lant has his hand up, though, so he might have a different opinion.
okay, that's what I heard too. I just wanted to be sure. Commissioner Lant?
Yes, hello. I think you should leave the 9 years. It already says you can use other, you can, well, actually it doesn't, does it? I just think 9 years is for a position of this import is not unreasonable. And I do think it does say elsewhere that you can, something else could be substituted for that. Can you correct me if I'm wrong on that? Deputy Director Rooklyn, or Deputy City Manager Rooklyn.
And for the record, I'm more than happy with Jordan because it's quite a mouthful to be formal. I am comfortable with whatever direction Park Commission gives. If you prefer a minimum of 9 years experience with a bachelor degree or a minimum of 5 years experience with a bachelor degree.
Commissioner Weiner?
Thanks. And thanks for your patience with me as I struggled with the technology. This was the only area that I actually in the final draft sort of struggled with a little bit as well. And I guess I'm trying to understand how if we have a minimum requirement and then some others, and then we say, but I mean, it's fine if your experience is good enough, and we just decide. So is it a minimum requirement? If it's not a minimum requirement, why are we saying it is if we actually have I'm trying to understand the thinking around that.
Yeah. And that is part of our goal for equal employment opportunity, in recognition that a lot of our educational attainment here in the U.S. states is broken down either by class lines or racial lines around those who access. And so it's an opportunity for us to recognize that maybe 15 years experience being a parks director is equivalent to having a bachelor's degree and 9 years experience, for example. So it allows some more flexibility and creativity to recognize that there are other ways to become proficient and able to do the job.
Commissioner Adams?
Yeah, I have a suggestion that I think is consistent with Commissioner Lott's point, which further on in the document, we mention master's degree or advanced degree in a related field as a preferred or elective requirement, that if we just change the language in that first section, instead of saying bachelor's degree to advanced degree, could substitute for up to 4 years of leadership experience, I think it would make everything consistent and would make sense in my mind.
May I repeat to make sure I understand? So under the preferred qualifications section, edit the first bullet, which reads, and if you can share the screen, that'd be helpful. Thank you. Which reads, and I'm going to show my mouse. No, I'm not. That's okay. Master's degree from accredited college or university in Parks and Recreation. We'll change that to advanced degree can substitute for 4 years of experience.
No, sorry to interrupt. That change that I'm suggesting is actually, if you go to the minimum qualifications section, where it says a bachelor's degree may substitute for 4 years of leadership experience, that's the third bullet, that we would just change bachelor's degree to graduate degree.
Great. Thank you. I understand that.
And then I think everything would be consistent.
Anyone else?
I have my hand up.
I can't see it, but thank you you just speak up when that happens, Commissioner Lant. Commissioner Lant.
Thank you. Then it sounds like the only change we're making is the one that Commissioner Adams just suggested, which would allow advanced degree to substitute for 4 years of experience. And that means that we stay with the 9 years of experience. That's my understanding. Is that correct?
That is my understanding as well.
And that was my suggestion, yes.
Chair's ready for a motion. Commissioner Adams, would you care to make one?
Yes. I move that we adopt the job amendment, the change in the minimum qualifications section under the third bullet, where it currently reads bachelor's degree, that would be substituted with graduate degree.
Okay, second. Commissioner Weiner?
I'll second.
We will. So that's, I think we just missed make a motion, basically. But if you would repeat it, because we cut out at the very beginning. Thank you, Commissioner Adams.
Sorry. I move that we approve the job description for the permanent parks director with the amendment that under the third bullet for the minimum qualifications section, the word bachelor's degree be replaced with graduate degree.
Thank you. Would you like to speak to the motion?
No, I think I already spoke to it. I think this was really excellent work that was done here.
Thank you. Commissioner Weiner? Anyone else? Okay, roll call vote, please.
I'd like to say something.
I'm sorry, Commissioner Lant.
Yes. Well, I also would like to thank Jordan Brooklyn for her work. It was great to be in a collaborative situation. I think the end product reflects that collaborative effort. And that's all I've got to say, and I'm planning to vote for it.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Bachmann,
Yes.
Commissioner Gardner,
Yes.
Commissioner Lant,
Yes.
Commissioner Weiner,
Yes.
Commissioner Adams.
Yes.
All yes, motion passes.
Thank you. Takes us to item 2, which is the interim parks director contract, and Jordan will help us with this one as well.
Absolutely. So as directed from our last business meeting last month, Carmel, myself, and the chair have been working with Rachel on a contract for the role as an interim parks director. And just as a reminder for the clarity, Rachel has been acting as our acting parks director We define acting as serving under the city manager, since technically the city manager appointed her to that role. And this interim contract would shift her into a more formal role with the Park Commission as the interim Parks Director. The contract before you all tonight, just to show you the details of what we worked out, is for 1 year or when a permanent director is hired, whichever comes first. Rachel will retain the right to her permanent role as deputy director. We will place her at step 4 of the salary schedule, which represents a 10% increase from what she would make as deputy director. And all the other benefits align with what department heads receive. And I'm happy to answer any questions on the contract or the process from here.
I have a question on really the first two. The 1 year or until, so there's no formal action taken. Let's suppose after a year we haven't done anything to hire, to recruit. Then she just remains in the position until that happens. So there's no renewal. It just,
No. So,
it has no sunset.
so it does have a sunset
Okay.
of 1 year. So if no permanent director is hired within 1 year, this contract does sunset.
Oh,
However,
Okay.
what typically happens is there'll be discussions if you'd like to extend the contract, amend the contract. It's a chance for both parties to get together and discuss how things are going. And if you want to continue or make a change.
okay. Thank you for that clarification. And then I would understand the second bullet to mean the deputy director role will remain open through this period.
Correct. You know, the city manager's office would work with Rachel if she's having capacity issues of either a temporary or a part-time position to help if need be. But we would leave the deputy director role open for her to be able to return to.
Thank you. Anyone else have questions? My two remote friends, colleagues? I can't see hands up, so I'm looking to my staff or our staff. Okay. In that case, we'll need a motion. Commissioner Weiner.
I move to approve the promotion to interim director, Parks Director, as written.
Commissioner Gardner,
I second that.
either of you care to speak to your motion?
Sure, I will. I will say, I think that since the deputy director stepped into the role, she's been doing a great job of really trying to knit together all of the complexities that she inherited, and I look forward to moving some of that work forward, and I look forward to exploring what a permanent role would look like as we iron out some of the final details.
Thank you. Commissioner Gardner.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I'd just like to say that I think this process will work very well for us. We originally went kind of on fast track, like we thought we needed to get a director in place, and I think this is a much better procedure, and I'm more than happy to work with Rachel over the next year to get us to permanent director status. So, thank you.
Anyone else care to comment before we vote? Okay, roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Bachmann,
Yes.
Commissioner Weiner,
Yes.
Commissioner Lant,
Yes.
Commissioner Adams,
Yes.
Commissioner Gardner.
Yes,
All yes, motion passes.
great.
Thank you. We now have item 3, which is pickleball court hours discussion, and interim director Rachel Dials will help us on this one.
Okay, well, thank you, everyone. So tonight, I wanted to give an operational update regarding the Lithia Park pickleball courts. And this is in response to concerns regarding off-hours use and acoustic impacts. What the memo and the presentation in front of you tonight is our options for updated rules, regulations, physical site controls, and improved collaboration with the Ashland Police Department. And I'm asking for some staff direction this evening So behind the scenes, we've been working, staff has been working to come up with some options for discussion. The increased pickleball participation specifically, has led to higher use at the courts. Staff has observed the courts seeing their highest demand on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays from 8 to 11 during the open play. Currently, our current posted signage that's in your packet, and actually on the screen right here, small, but the facility rules state that the courts are open from 7 a.m. And close at sunset. It does create some ambiguity, and in speaking with the Ashland Police Department, their recommendation was to clearly state open and close hours on the signage and refer people to contact APD with violations of the posted hours. Another option was looking at locking the courts. Over the years, there's been discussions about this, and APD, we have 6 current gates on the facility, 2 maintenance gates and 4 visitor gates. And those 4, so all 6 would need to be locked with cabling, probably a cable chain and a lock. And staff has evaluated this idea, and it would require an extra 15 minutes on either side per shift. And I think the bigger concern on that is confrontation with non-compliant players at night when we're trying to close the facility. If this was to move forward, we would put together a safety protocol with explicit escalation steps for staff to take. APD's recommendation again was to start with the increased signage, like assigning all of the exits with the hours. That includes opening and closing, and any other rules that we're wanting to quote unquote enforce. And as a reminder, the only park facilities at this time that we lock are all of the public restrooms within the parks and the Japanese garden. We also have explored quiet equipment. Quiet equipment is quiet paddles and quiet balls. We met with the Ashland, Oregon Pickleball Club about the quiet equipment, and we have reached out to the USA Pickleball Association. We haven't heard back from them yet, but they do have quite an extensive list on their website. And the Pickleball Club indicated that the manufacturing sector's quiet equipment is still evolving, and that it's harder for people to hit. They have to use more force when you actually hit the ball. And what we would recommend as staff is if you wanted to pursue this, not mandate it, but recommend it on the signage. Another piece of the sound mitigation was a thing called Acoustablock system. This is something that Medford Parks and Recreation is currently using at their new Rogue X courts that just opened. And it's very effective for the courts in Medford. As of today, we actually did have Lonnie, our recreation supervisor, did have a conversation with the rep at Acoustablock, and his recommendation was to take a step back because of the fact that our facility is in a canyon. The noise is going to travel over the courts and over into the houses and into the Japanese garden. And his recommendation was to do actually an acoustic, work with like a company that specializes in sound mitigation for pickleball, which there are companies like that, and actually do like a sound study if that's something that we wanted to pursue. So that's kind of where we're at with that discussion at this point. I do want to just note that I inadvertently did not include the April 1st comments from the Parks Commission meeting where they talked about Hunter Park tennis courts, pickleball, tennis. I wanted to make sure that I noted that. We did include some comments, but not all of the comments, and I apologize for that. They weren't meant to be completely inclusive, but I should have included April 1st comments. The current noise ordinance for the city is 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. or whenever unreasonably disturbs community peace based on volume, timing, or duration. Tonight, we're asking for discussion regarding the implementation of specifically designated court hours and expanded rule signage. I feel like it's important to start somewhere, and starting there, I think, is a good start. Proposed operating hours, 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. year-round. Signage content, such as, hours and trespassing, sound mitigation, such as using quiet category paddles and acoustic balls to reduce community noise. And we have heard concerns about amplified sound on site at the pickleball courts. And so making sure that we specifically call that piece out so people aren't bringing their boom boxes with music, that sort of thing. And so the questions for discussion is discussing options with the commission on how you want to proceed and what direction you want to get to staff tonight.
Thank you. A couple of questions off the bat. First of all, do we have any idea what the cost of this sound study that just popped up might be?
When Lonnie, Recreation Supervisor Flora talked to the representative today, it's about $5,000. But we'd have to call the company. It was kind of all happening today at the last minute. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Thank you. The other one, and we have to be clear that the hours pertain to the opening of the court, and that external speakers, boom boxes, and amplified audio are prohibited at all times. Mm-hmm. Right. Mm-hmm. That's what the ordinance says, I presume. I'm not sure, I think it does.
Yeah.
Okay, and then trespassing is pretty straightforward. If they're there after hours, they're trespassing. Okay, that's our understanding? Okay, I'll just open up the floor now to anybody else who would like to discuss. Commissioner Gardner, then Commissioner Weiner, and I'll be looking for hands on the screen.
Thank you, Chair. Well, in my earlier discussions with Interim Director Dials, it seemed like some of the important things that we needed to address was not vague time limits like sundown, but actual time limits. In her discussion with Ashland Police Department as far as enforcement. So I think a recommendation of specific hours, and year-round is always easier because you don't have to change them from season to season. So standardization, I think, is important. And the other thing is, the amplified sound, it seems like it should just be a no-brainer. Like if the city ordinance says you can't have that, you should understand that. But I think whatever signage we determine needs to be more specific and actually say you can't do this kind of thing on the courts. And once again, I think those two items would go a long way to to kind of firming up some of the concerns about extra sound and late night playing on the courts that I think we could probably do relatively easy. And then we'd also have the support of Ashland Police Department as far as enforcement goes. Thank you.
I'd also throw in lighting. They can't light the courts themselves. Commissioner Weiner.
Yeah, thanks, and I do appreciate that we're finally having some discussion about this. I will say I do have some concerns and challenges with the recommendations as put forth. My assumption is that the current hours posted till sunset is related to safety and hazard information, right? And much of the year, so number one, most of the year, sunset is actually before 9 p.m. Currently, Ashland Pickleball Club and some other locations still list the hours as 7 till 9, and you actually can't find the hours listed on the Ashland Parks and Rec website, should you look for it. There's a lot of information, but none on actual hours. So, but that to sunset is quite ambiguous. But much of the year till 8 p.m., if we're honoring dark skies and trying to be respectful of nesting birds, nocturnal animals, et cetera, so if we're not putting lights back in for a host of reasons, that puts many of the hours after dark and could lead to challenges there. So while I don't disagree that consistency throughout the year makes sense, we do have adjustable or variable hours for the pickleball courts, or excuse me, for the Japanese garden, which is right adjacent to the pickleball courts. And it seems to make sense to me to align the hours of the pickleball facility with that of the Japanese garden, so that if there was action or commotion occurring in that area, it would be easier, quite frankly, for APD to be able to say, there's something happening in that Japanese garden pickleball area, and they'd be more able and apt. It would be easier and clear for them to do that. A second issue is, I've read quite a bit and spoke to a number of quite frankly, local pickleball players who have stated very clearly they don't understand why we haven't adopted a quiet equipment policy as many other municipalities have across the state and the country. Some feel they play better. Some feel they don't play as good. I get it. And some have made the argument that current competition doesn't allow for some of the quiet equipment to be used. The fact is, this is a recreational facility, not a competition facility. And we should really be thinking about the easy, inexpensive, quite frankly, free things to implement that will make a significant impact on other park users, and on the homes in the area. It really shouldn't be about if pickleball, it should be about how pickleball. And these easy to implement solutions would go a long way to make those differences. So I would encourage both aligning hours with the Japanese garden, and I would encourage, we're already concerned apparently about confrontation if we ask them to not play after dark. So do we really think that saying, could you please use quiet equipment and be respectful, is gonna have an impact? It wouldn't. We have to make it a mandate, and we know that we're not going to go down there and strong arm them, but we should be more clear and forceful as that is an expectation rather than a crossed fingers hope.
And one way to implement that is to do it over a year or two, and maybe we should give that some thought. That way people can work their way into it, but there's going to be a mandated X date. I'm just saying that's a possibility. Commissioner Lunt.
Thank you, Chair. The way I see it is we've asked our staff to help us find more pickleball spaces for more pickleball courts. So there's a demand for pickleball courts theoretically beyond what we have. So if that's the case, it seems to me that we should be trying to maximize the use of the courts we have. And so that there's a couple ways that we can do that. One is lights, but the other is to make the summertime hours reflect when there's sun. So during the heat of the summer, when the only time it's really reasonable to play is early to mid-morning and late in the afternoon and into the evening, and actually just into the evening. Those are in the summer with an 8 o'clock closing time, we are limiting that, and it just seems like that's one of the ideal times to play, and we need as many opportunities for pickleball, it seems to me, as possible, and I just don't see why we wouldn't accommodate as many hours as we can possibly squeeze out of our facility. Maybe we don't want lights there, maybe we do, but that's something that, we've had lights there in the past. One staff member decided that we weren't going to have lights there. The commission's never weighed in on that. So to me, I agree that it's simpler to have just one time year round, but I see it cutting out some of the prime time in the summer. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that seasonal hours might make sense, but they're clearly from, with dates. It complicates the sign, but I agree with Commissioner Lunt that we do want to maximize the time there. Commissioner Adams?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I think that the hours presented aren't unreasonable. I also don't think it's unreasonable to consider seasonal hours for for play. The one thing, I don't live within earshot of the pickleball courts, but I do regularly run in that area between the hours of 6:30 and 7, so kind of a key time as far as these hours go. And while I seldom see play before 7 o'clock, there's not uncommonly, especially during the wet season, there's a gentleman, and I love this, it shows, you know, the dedication of the community who comes to the courts before 7 and squeegees and then uses a leaf blower to blow off the court, which of course makes noise too. And I think we should just have something in the sign that sort of specifies that use as opposed to playing pickleball, because while I love that he is volunteering his time to help maintain our courts, I would imagine if I were a neighbor that having somebody using a leaf blower at 6:30 in the morning would not be wonderful for me. So I just think there should be something in the signage that specifies something along those lines.
Thank you. Anybody else have more? Commissioner Weiner.
Yeah, thanks. I do appreciate those comments as well, thinking about how to mitigate the morning challenge. What I will say is I think probably no one has a better view of, since I work from a space that looks down on those courts all day and can see it all morning and all into the evening. And while there is absolutely a high use in the mornings between that sort of 8 and 11, 8 and noon, I would suggest, it used to be more play in the evening. I would suggest that play in the evening has become minimal, quite frankly. Usually what I would suggest is there's maybe one, occasionally two players sort of between 7 and, well, when they do come at about 8, they play till about 9:30 into the dark. But, and they tend to actually be the noisiest, the rowdiest. They tend to be the ones that play the boom boxes, that have the loudest equipment I've ever heard. And it's not really when the bulk of the use is. The majority of the use is within sort of those standard lighting windows, which is, I would suggest 7, maybe 8 a.m. until 5 or 6 p.m. in the winter time, and probably till 7 p.m. in the summertime is when the bulk of the use is.
Thank you. Done? You want Commissioner Gardner?
Thank you, Chair. I'll just say one more thing. So this is listed as a pickleball hours discussion. I think what staff, at least my interpretation of what staff is looking for, is to help to address some of the issues. We can't address every issue that every neighbor has with this facility, in my opinion. But if we can address some of them, and the time of play, I think, is something we can address with simple signage. And I also believe making it clear that, you know, there's not amplified music, there's not supposed to be amplified music anywhere within Lithia Park, although there's some violations to that. But if we could make it clear on the pickleball courts that, you know, boombox and amplified music is not part of this particular facility, I think that would go a long way to help staff standardize what the signage is. It would help us with enforcement. If let's just say that 8 o'clock is the downtime, that's when the courts are going to be closed. They're not going to be locked. I'm not a big fan of locking up all our equipment other than the restrooms and some things that we noted. But you know, make it clear what it is, and then if we need enforcement from Ashland Police, we can ask them to enforce the rules that we've stated there. And you know, we've attempted to address some of the problems that the folks that live in the area of Lithia Park are concerned about. So we're not taking any action tonight, but I would just say if staff needs direction, I would try to give them direction on things that we can do that are, you know, that are not going to cost us a lot of money, that are going to help standardize the play and, you know, address some of the concerns that the neighbors have. Thank you.
Commissioner Weiner?
I think it's fun to be able to say, oh, this is just about the individuals who live right there. If people have been reading the public comments that have been coming in for, quite frankly, years, and I compiled them for staff today for ease of review, it isn't just about, in fact, it's mostly not neighbors, because there's not that many people that live right there, although it does impact homes. It's also about many other park users, as we saw in the pros survey, people saying, I don't go to that area anymore because of the noise of pickleball. I don't enjoy walking the trails anymore because of the noise of pickleball. We have an opportunity to implement tried and true, standard practice, best practices employed by other municipalities across the state and the country that are cheap, easy, affordable, and demonstrated. Simply saying, could you play a little earlier and maybe not play your boombox and violate, doesn't get the job done. So we can stop there. We can be remiss in our duties to safeguard this gem, this jewel of a facility that we have. And we can kick that can down the road if we want, or we can uphold our duty to the greater public and make some potentially tough decisions to say, let's do these things that are standard practice, best practice, and quite frankly, supported by USA Pickleball.
Thank you. So what I'm hearing is we have a range of possible things we can do, and I think I'll ask you in a minute to repeat back what you think you heard, but I'm just imagining a few options coming back from one end of the spectrum to the other fairly soon, so we can make some decisions and move forward. But why don't you tell us what you heard?
So I heard general agreement on coming up with a time of use for on the signage that potentially incorporates a seasonal, potentially aligning with the Japanese garden, which I actually think is not a bad idea. So looking at that, adding to our signage things that we want to call out the AMC code, like amplified music, and that's kind of the general consensus I heard. As far as like on the other side, I did hear the need for quiet equipment and whether or not that's encouraged or mandated. That's the wording that. And I think that's the general gist of what I heard.
Right, and I just add in if we could find out what a cost of a formal study would be, that'd be good. And I see a hand to my left here, but just one more thought before we go here, which is, would we be in a position to bring this back to the August study session?
Yeah, I wouldn't, I was recommending to not have too many things on the study session for that meeting because of the Lithia Park, the East Lithia Park Hillside proposed trail and the chance for a lot of public input that night. But I think this piece could come back to that study session.
Or we could bring it back the next week to the
regular meeting.
To the regular business meeting as
Oh.
a possible action.
So I don't think we've determined yet if we're having a regular meeting
After.
because we have the joint meeting
After the
as
joint
well.
meeting.
So-
We're keeping that option open.
But
Okay.
we could bring this back. I mean, it's.
Well, we can talk
would be
about the
ready.
timing.
Yeah.
But just get it back next month so we can resolve it.
Okay.
If possible, if you can't get the data together, that's another thing. Commissioner Gardner.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to mention, so I think, and you have it in your brief, that, things are prohibited. Trespassing is prohibitive. If we give hours, I think it needs to be stated. I mean, I just think people need to know that. And the same with the boom boxes, external speakers, amplified audio. It's just prohibited. It should not be used there. It's not really an option. You don't have to go to the AMC and look it up to figure out what it is. Just say that these things are prohibited. I think would help. Thank you.
You're talking about the, what's on this, it's not on the screen right now, but playing outside of posted hours, playing after dark, or trespassing is strictly prohibited. Violators face citations or exclusion by the Ashland Police Department per AMC 10.68.
Same language for the equipment, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll put an end to that one and move on to the next item, which is 4, Lithia Park Ice Rink Pavilion update and information only. And our presenter is Vice President of the Ashland Parks Foundation Board, Mark Knox.
Great. Mark Knox is going to come up and give us an kind of up to date on where we're at with the Lithia Ice Rink Pavilion concept plan. So come on up, Mark. Do you want to run the slideshow?
Yeah, just show me how.
Just this little arrow right here.
Okay, up and down?
That one right here.
Okay.
Just go that way.
What if I make a mistake?
Then I'll help you.
What, you want to stay there?
Yeah, I have to go. I have to get a drink of water. I'll be right back.
All right, sounds good. Does this even work? No, it doesn't work. Okay. Good evening, Parks Commissioners. My name is Mark Knox, 670 Nepenthe Road in Ashland. I was in front of this commission a few months back when it was soon after it was announced that the existing ice skate rink cover was going to be considered permanent. And I said that it caused a stir amongst a few community members that we could do better as a community for Lithia Park. And the commission agreed, and which I thought was important to make sure that it's just not a few citizens out there or the Parks Foundation thinking that this was a necessary need. So you agreed, and what has happened since then is we've done many things. We've created a steering committee. Mike is on that steering committee representing the Parks Foundation as well as the Parks Commission. A gentleman named Steve Jensen, used to be a city councilor, was involved, good guy. Dave Bernard, who was participant in the initial funding for the rink. Bill Molnar, who used to be the planning director here in Ashland, is also a neighbor of mine and a good buddy. And Eric Monroe, who's an architect, and I'm probably forgetting somebody on that commission, but basically a group of people who understand land use, understand the finance part of it as well. We then proceeded to interview 3 local architects, trying to keep it local. Drill down to one, which is KSW Architects. Ray Kistler is the principal. A gentleman named Alex Stitt is actually the primary architect on this project. And then, let's see, we did a survey. We connected with a contractor, which we felt was pretty important because it all sounds good. We're coming up with all these ideas, but that contractor, every time one of those ideas comes up, puts a number to it, a budget number. And, and I've said this probably 100 times, maybe this week, that, we have to turn around and ask our friends for money, our neighbors. And so we have to be frugal and thoughtful with what we're trying to propose. And it's been great. We have some significant commitments already. We're not there yet, and it's going to take time to fundraise. These plans I'm about to show you tonight, they came out last Friday. And I did show a neighbor this morning the plans, but really this is the first time they become public. And tomorrow I'm presenting in front of Rotary, and so it's going to start getting out there. And the idea tonight is really to get the commission's just general consensus. We're going in the right direction. If not, you want to hear that, and so we can reboot. But the general idea would be to come back within the very near future with more detailed plans and with a more refined budget, and begin the land use process. And in order to do that, we're going to need the city, and I believe that would be the city manager, sign off on the application as the property owner, as that's what's typical when you go through the land use process. At that point, again, neighborhood notices will begin, more meetings with the Historic Commission, the Planning Commission. It'll be a public hearing. It's not a staff decision. It'll be a public hearing in this room. You know, everything looks great so far. That's all I can really say, and not experiencing any negative kickback. This is, the idea is this is all going to be private money. We're not asking the city to necessarily participate. I think there's probably going to be some things like I told Rachel, can you guys at least take down, you know, once we get going, can you take down the existing structure? And that's pretty much about it. But they've been great so far to work with too, because we've had a lot of back and forth about what's important. And we'll talk a little bit about all that tonight. So one of the things that are still pending that I think are going to make a very positive impact, but a big impact on the budget, is the landscaping plan and the landscape hard surface plan, because going back to that site plan, thank you, is part of this project has always been, you know, we have this fixed, the oval shape area up there, we have this fixed area that we're going to cover, and then we have this other third of the lot that is on this prominent corner that we'd like to activate, right? That it's activated not just for the winter season for the rink, where people are gathering and watching, you know, the ice skaters, but also other seasonal activities.
That's this area on the screen. You can see that area there.
Oh, thank you. Okay. And yes, that's that area. So we don't have any plans just yet, and it's just been a timing issue with vacations and so forth. But that could tweak the plan, the plan a little bit. Not much, I don't think. But there are some things that we have to consider: some trees and some big rocks, and some infrastructure. But I think for the most part, what we are showing there is pretty accurate. What we think is going to end up being. What's definitely not is where that bike parking is kind of shown. That's a lot more of a placeholder to start some of the process that we had to begin with the city. So we started a pre-application a few weeks ago. We actually had a meeting today with staff, and everything went fine. And there was a couple recommendations, and which I'll bring up tonight as well. So let me just go ahead and begin. Rachel just showed us the plaza area, and there's a big square. This is hard to really describe, but there's a big square around the rink itself, and then there's another square around there's some buildings just to the south of the rink. The square is basically the pavilion, and again I'll show you, but it's a shed type of design. It's not a barrel. The barrel was 30% more than the shed. Then the square to the south of the big the pavilion itself, that represents the roof line of a building which has multiple uses. It's going to have, all the way to the top is the Zamboni space, or the tractor space, and and then just to there you go. That space is for restrooms, but also skate office. And then the bottom space right there, thank you, is concessions. The property from the plaza to the ice rink is about 4 to 4.5 feet in grade change. And so we're having this split level design where the ice rink level is, there you go, thank you, Rachel, right there. That is what she just pointed to, the white little lines that are vertical there. That is going to be seating area for people, kids people put on their skates and so forth, and they obtain their skates from the skate ice. Yeah, ice skate area, the room, the rental room. And then there's one bathroom that you walk directly into at that same level. And then there'll be some storage underneath. These plans don't show that, but there'll be some storage underneath the concessions space. Because there's 4.5 foot difference, we're gonna have to put stairs in from the ice rink level up, and that all have to be matted, rubber matted. But anyways, that's kind of the dynamic with the two spaces. Everything in the dark gray is really intended to be all mobility area for the skaters, all along where she has the what do you call it? Tracer? Is it cursor? The cursor, sorry. That is, there'll be a bench seating in there as well. So there's a lot of spots for viewing and mobility and all the things that you see, like right now. I know you guys know it, but right now, for example, there's wheel stops that are in the way of walking around. A couple other things that are just like tripping hazards. All that's going to go away, and it'll be a nice, comfortable viewing and walking environment. Again, the upper area, which we don't have the details yet, we see that as, again, seating to view into the rink, but also seating that kind of stands on its own. So there could be an event where, say, some assembly space, a need where there's going to be a fire pit, and people can hang out there, and that activates that space. So it can be independent from the ice rink. One of the things that has come up, and we think it's important and very important, is the connection between the Lithia Park proper, if you will, and the rink and the crosswalk that's there. Thank you. Yes, right about there, and to try to make that a prominent connection, both visually, but also, which will line up with Atkinson Bridge, but also the corner of Netley and Winburn Way. That is a very unique intersection in the sense it gets so wide there, and but it's something that we want to recognize somehow how to improve. One of the things we'll probably end up doing is putting a curb cut there, that at some point in the future, as by the Rose Garden, there'll be probably some connection. But I actually see that this is going to be way off in the future, where the city's going to end up doing one of these curb bump outs like we have seen around town, and kind of fix this intersection. It's a little dangerous, and we're adding to the activity, and so it needs to be addressed. But until that happens, we'll also do some type of physical entry element there, so that it's an entry to the plaza as well. So we have kind of two main entry points that make the property stand out. We are not proposing to do any excavation into the hillside. We're going to be using pretty much the same alignment of where the posts go down now. They don't line up exactly, but they'll be in that same general alignment. The Zamboni is a little bit different. That Zamboni space is there will be a retaining wall that gets extended, all the way back, basically where the bike parking is kind of shown. But it's really going to be, that'll be gone. But that building right there, that space right there, thank you. That'll have footings and retaining and so forth right there. So there will be some new retaining all the way across that, which is probably 30 plus or so feet. And but that slope is actually pretty gradual at that spot. We have I've talked to a geotechnical engineer. He believes the slope is very stable. We're not getting into it, other than we are going to do some landscaping and some plantings. And one of the things that we are going to do, I think is very important, as I found out today when meeting with the property owner of the 2 properties right in the center, right above, to find out that there is no stormwater outlet on any of those upper properties. And so for 100+ years, water's just been trickulating, down the property. And so what we'd like to do is, they're willing to do some of the trenching, but also we would end up giving them an easement to somehow come through the property, connect with our system, and then take care of that problem, on the condition that they let their adjoining neighbors, when they want to, join in as well. So that's something that has kind of all come up today that I think is good. We're trying to look at this comprehensively as we possibly can, and still try to be within a reasonable budget, which is right now it's approaching $2 million, but all good. So go ahead. Okay, so this is the front elevation. So if you're on Windburn and you're looking directly at the property, this is what you would see. And the bottom, I think in this case, is actually somewhat more important because it shows basically the shed design. The existing building, and Rachel will get to it, I think, is 32 feet, like 6 inches height, and this is going to be 23 at the highest point, 23 feet, I think 3 inches. So it's almost 10 feet less. The roof will be a bronze metal, standing seam metal, and matted so that it kind of just dissipates the light and glare. I'm going to show these louvers. There you go, thank you. Those are metal louvers. They're designed to look like wood. They actually even have an imprint of like grain, but they'll be metal. They're very attractive. Part of it was to try to reduce, again, some of the sunlight that comes into the building. But it was also, we've been very cognizant of who this gift is going to, and the city of Ashland. And the city of Ashland doesn't have a lot of money for for maintenance. And so very cognizant about maintenance issues as we design this building. So that will be a metal product. It is, what I understand, is attractive material. The siding on the building itself will be a architectural fiber cement board that is it's a vertical installation. It's actually, once again, very easy to maintain and very long lasting, obviously. Let's see. Go ahead and turn the next page there, Rachel. We got. That's actually, that's okay. I'm hoping there's one in here, but if not, I have a foam core board. And this is actually a better illustration to talk about the materials and so forth. So underneath the eave will be like a tongue and groove finish, and so that's going to be pretty. I think like a very attractive element of it. But then underneath will be a finished, what's called a finished plywood, and where you won't see the seams, but it's a really inexpensive but attractive way to make the ceiling not as I guess industrial as sometimes you'll see in these steel frame buildings. We'll have recessed can lighting, that kind of thing, in this building as well. So next, we got. Just same profile. You can in this one you can kind of see the grade change between the two buildings. one of the things I will say, point this one out, is staff has really emphasized that there are times when it's hard to cool the ice at certain times of the year, especially when the warmer winds come through the canyon. The smaller building, the concessions building, that actually its roof line goes underneath the pavilion roof line. So that 2/3 of that solar area will be protected. We still are, okay, we got to figure out the other third. And it's been kind of problematic because we really want that to be a cool hangout spot to look down at all the activities on the ice, right? They're getting their hot chocolate and they're walking over there and seeing everybody have fun. But we have to figure that out, and that's where our landscape architect, so she's working on that. We don't want to revert back to the tarp and the drop-down tarp, but we're preparing for it if it doesn't work. So that would be a big disappointment if we just can't figure that out. But what else? What do you got? Yeah, that's a nice image of the concessions building. We're not losing any parking. We think we're going to gain one. And that's really because the ice rink has dictated so much, right? The dimensions of the ice rink. And so when the striping was going in for the parking, they just pushed it all the way across. And there's so much room between the parking spaces. And they also had wider spaces than normal. And so the design that you'll see you saw on the site plan, they're all standard spaces. They're not compact. There might be a couple in there, but we believe we are +1 on the parking. If we lose a space, we break even. We didn't want to fight this argument with the community. And I think the same thing goes with the uses. Right now we're sticking to the concept that this is going to be a winter facility, and the Parks Commission and Council in the future might decide to change that. I think that for sure that with special permitting, even once this is done, immediately the commission can allow special events through permits. And we see things like bicycle training, a small wedding, whatever that can use both the upper area and the pavilion space itself. So, and then, okay. Bummer. Okay, so it's okay. So one of the things I want to show, is this one. And whatever.
We had that in the packet, you didn't have it in the presentation.
Okay. This is kind of key, I think. This shows the existing structure at 32 plus feet, and this is the shed roof design, 10 feet less. I thought that's pretty darn important, and I know the neighbors were really appreciative. Like, that's a very critical component for them, in that not only is it a visual, I'm just gonna sit down, thank you. Not only is it a visual problem for the neighbors, it is ugly, and I don't mind admitting to that. It also, there is glare off of it, and as I was standing up there today, it was a little windy, and it was flapping. It was making some noise too. So this proposed structure is going to address all those things. I mean, that's our hope. That's really my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions. I will say that what's next? We're going to start in earnest to meet with the neighbors. We're starting the fundraising. It's kind of already happening, but very, very light. But we have to form the foundation and start the momentum to raise those funds. Like I said, I feel very, very confident that we have a pretty good chunk now. If we had to, we could probably build just the pavilion and phase in the other building, the concession building, and revert back to what we do now with the trailer and the porta potties and so forth. But our goal is to have the funds, have the contract signed with not just the contractor, but also the city, and begin as soon as the next winter season is over, which is what, March 1st, basically, right? And that superstructure goes up pretty darn quick. There'll be some infrastructure, probably a couple months of that, but that superstructure will go up very quick. And while the general contractors are telling us they could get it done in that time frame, that summer season, they can get the whole thing done. Worst case is that we can still open for the ice rink, and if there's some still finished work to do on the concessions building, then we will. But they're telling us that they can do it, and we're not going to interrupt another winter ice season. So.
I just want to add, so I just want to make sure that commissioners understand kind of the process. Obviously you can discuss tonight. This is going to come back to the commission probably shortly, like in the next 2 months or so. We'll be looking at asking the Parks Commission to amend the CIP, to include this in the CIP. That will be the next step. And I just wanted to make sure that was noted.
Yeah, we're going to have to act fast at some point. It could be next month where we come back, obviously, with more details. And there might even be some things that we just don't have yet, but we're going to need to make that land use application, where that in itself can take months. And all I would be really asking the Parks Commission, and City Council for that matter, is to let us proceed through that. Obviously, we wouldn't pull building permits or anything like that, but if it just becomes a timing issue. I think we're going to have everything ready, but there's, I think there's a lot of discussion around the plaza area and the real cost of that, because I think that could be really expensive.
So I think, and then I'll open up to everybody else. I think we just have to be reassured that the main structure will be in place so that we can operate the rink. If the other buildings aren't quite ready, I think that would be acceptable, although it's not our first choice or yours. And I presume they could be working real time on that anyway. I don't know how that would work, trying to operate the rink. Maybe not. Maybe it'd just be jump in right after the next season. But the key is we have a rink.
Right.
So if we're committing to a new structure and selling off the old ugly one, we have to be absolutely certain we can do this.
Yeah, I agree.
And so I know that I'd be inclined to say a 2-year and be sure than a possibility, even the smallest possibility that we couldn't open again. So whatever you can do to alleviate those concerns in the next round, that would be good.
Well, I think how we probably need to play this is, and Mike brought this up today, and I think it's a good point on the fountain. We kind of had to show we had the money in place in the bank, and I think that's where we'll have to do the same.
Okay, thank you. Other people, Commissioner Adams, I see your hand up there.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. The word that keeps coming to my mind is thrilling. I mean, I look at these pictures and I'm just absolutely thrilled. This looks amazing. I appreciate the work that's gone into it. I love the details on it, the thought process behind no more porta potty, there's going to be bathrooms there. No more trailer, there's going to be concessions there. No more parking the Zamboni in the street, there's a Zamboni shed. I mean, just wonderful attention to detail, and the aesthetics of it are beautiful. What I would say, along the lines of what you said, Chair, is, this is all about like getting the public excited, right? And especially getting the public excited after, what was a fumble and a hard year for people that love the ice rink. So what I would love to see, and we're looking at this coming year, and I like the idea of like, we need a season of skating on this rink, and people enjoying the rink. I want to see the pictures that you showed us tonight in poster form up at the rink. Like, hey, you guys, look at what's next. Look at what the Parks Foundation is working on. I think that this is a win for our community. It's a win for the Parks Foundation, and it's a win for parks in general. So, thank you so much for your presentation tonight and for spearheading this. This is just thrilling, like I said.
Thank you.
Did I see Commissioner Lant and then Commissioner Gardner and then Commissioner Weiner?
Thank you, Chair. Well, I have some specific detailed questions. I read the pre-app, and it says that 2 spaces, the plan would have 2 fewer spaces than current. But I heard our presenter, Mark Knox, say that there'd be a 1+. So I wonder if you could, that'd be my first question, is could you reconcile those 2 statements?
Yeah. Hi, Rick.
Hello.
Yes. Actually, like typical, I probably wrote that, at midnight, and I thought we had less spaces or whatever. Anyways, long story short is, I just counted it today before our pre-app, and we had 22 spaces, and the plans show 23. So, whatever, we're +1.
Thank you. Continuing on with my questions, is it correct to assume that the footprint of the ice skating rink stays exactly the same?
The footprint of the ice rink 100% stays exactly the same. What doesn't stay the same is the cover itself. The posts on the west end stay the same. The posts on the along Windburn, they do move to accommodate the movement, the pedestrian mobility. And in fact, as you see now out there, is that the existing cover again drops into the parking lot itself, right? And that's where you have the wheel stops and all that interference. The new roof comes pretty much out to the property line, the front property line. So we see, it's hard to see it right now, but we actually see people coming in off the sidewalk or leaning, walking just a little closer and being under cover and being even at a higher elevation to kind of look down from the sidewalk into the rink. So in a long way to answer your question, Rick, the posts stay the same. The roof itself comes out to the property line. I think right now it's about 5 feet or so from the property line. So now it goes all the way out to it.
Thank you. And then does that mean you're going to just leave the existing concrete with the cooling coils underneath it? They stay the same?
100%.
Thank you. And what about the chiller? Does the chiller stay in the same place?
Stays the same.
Okay, thank you. And then I did have a comment also, and that is, thank you for thinking about the Nutley-Windburn intersection. For an area that you really want to be traffic calming, that's the antithesis of that. It's really, it's way too wide. It should just be a regular intersection, not these broad sweeping curves that would allow someone to speed with a hot rod or whatever. Mm-hmm. So anyway, thanks for thinking of that. I know that's not really this project, but the fact that you're getting that, putting that out there, I think is a real plus for our community.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Commissioner Gardner.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to point out three things, and one is just for the general public, because I think everyone here knows that. So the ice rink itself is embedded in the parking lot. It can't be moved. That's a stationary facility that this whole thing has to be built around. So there's no, you can't shift it north or south or anything. It's where it is. I just think that this concept of a lower profile building would be such a benefit to the neighborhood and to this facility. I think we didn't have that on the screen, but to reduce the height of the building by 10 feet, I think it will be a pretty impressive change for this whole operation here. And the third thing I was going to say actually was kind of to the last comment from Commissioner Lant about, we're really looking at the concept of that Nutley-Winburn Way intersection. It's too wide. We're trying to, like Mark said, activate that corner that's really underutilized right now. But, there's a lot of possibilities there. So it'll be pretty exciting once we move forward.
Yeah, and as we activate this space, it's just going to get busier. And right now, it's not busy with pedestrians, so to speak, crossing and so forth, but it sure is cars. And as Commissioner Lant alluded to, this particular radius, this design allows cars to really pick up speed heading uphill, and it just kind of creates a really. It's going to be safe. It's going to be fine, but we can do better, and we really need to think about long-term fixes, which I'll recommend to the engineering department to put in the transportation system plan, which they're working on now. That this particular intersection, this one needs one of those bump outs more than any of the intersections that I think in the rest around town. So, but good point.
Thank you. Commissioner Weiner.
Yeah, thanks. And thanks so much for this presentation. I think this stuff's great. I will say, I wish I hadn't seen the barrel roof before.
I know, 30% though.
But I get it. But this is beautiful in and of itself. What I will say is I appreciate you're still working on what you're calling the plaza side of it. Mm-hmm. But I love the idea of a fire pit type thing, or maybe a roundhouse over it, so there's because that's going to really draw people to that area. That's going to allow the people that are there supporting their kids or their whatever to be able to stay warm and be part of it. So I would encourage looking at that. I also wonder about, since I'm spending your money, about solar panels. If there's any possibility that someone might want to donate a solar installation, because that might help offset some of the costs of running the chiller and doing the other stuff. It's a high sun exposure area. And the last thought I had was related to the louver sides that you have. Yeah. You'd mentioned the flapping of the tent cover now, and I've seen some of those louver type things sort of catch the wind and create some sort of, and I suspect that the engineers are looking at how to, based on the directionality of wind and how that blows, how to modify or mitigate that to avoid that kind of a challenge.
I haven't had that conversation about that specific issue with the louvers, but I sure hope so. I mean, it's something to pass on for sure. The solar is straightforward in the sense of we can plumb for it. We can do some things that are really inexpensive while the building's going under construction. The actual panels, that could be, again, another phase. It could be through grants, those kind of things. But that's a good idea. I mean, at least a plumb. Conduit is very inexpensive. So.
Okay, Commissioner Gardner.
I just can't resist, but in the summertime, you put the carousel underneath the new roof. And I know where to get $100,000.
It looks like Commissioner Lant might have his hand up.
I see his hand. Commissioner Lant.
Thank you, Chair. one other thing I noticed, and that is the bathrooms, the location of the bathrooms. I suspect that the plan is for these bathrooms to mainly be used for the skating facility, but there's no reason they can't be used for other reasons. So, for example, if the playground bathrooms are down, or just during events that are happening in the close vicinity. And the design looks like it kind of tucks them away. And I wonder if there's a way of perhaps switching with the concession stand and making them more visible on the street would be possible.
I could pass that on, Rick. I could definitely pass that on. Not so sure I want the bathrooms representing the facade, but I think I hear what you're getting at in the sense of just making them more visible in case the other ones are closed. Yeah, I mean, I don't know how we'd fix that, but you know, we're also talking about this is kind of an opportunity for some wayfinding signage at that corner. You know, so I think it was you, Mike, was talking about Japanese garden this way. You know, so we could do some little things like that with signage that might improve that as well.
I think that this facility with the restrooms, I think it's a good opportunity to have them open when we need them open. But I don't see that they would be open all the time either, like maybe for events and special, you know, things that were happening. But like in the summer, when the ice rink's closed and the parking lot's open, unless we have an event or something big going on in the park, we probably would keep them closed. I mean, that's my vision right now.
That's interesting too is we've done some due diligence and we don't even have to have bathrooms. The bathrooms across the street suffice, but it's just convenience, you know. I mean, mom's out there skating with one kid and the other kid's got to go to the restroom, and we don't want to send them across the street. So
We can't. They'd have to take their skates off.
Yeah, there you go. That's another issue. So, you know, the idea is, again, directly vision from the rink itself into that one bathroom. And then from the plaza, you know, you're up there at that level and you can see as well. So it's not about across the street or, you know, some other direction. It really is the two uses. You know, they're seen from both sides. So.
I think that's about it. I think we'll wrap up. So thank you very much, Mark. I agree with everybody else. Fabulous design. It's gorgeous, and I'm counting on you get that puppy in on time.
Me too.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Next item, number 5, the Park Walk Medallion in front of Lithia Park. This is an action item, and Commissioner Gardner will present that.
Thank you, Chair. So I'm bringing this back as representative for the Parks Foundation. When I provided the information for you last month, we didn't have a final medallion design, so we did employ a graphic designer to come up with actually several different medallion designs, and with the donor and a few other Park Foundation members, this is the medallion that I would like to present to the commission for hopefully for approval, that would be placed at the entrance of Lithia Park for acknowledgement of the Lithia Park Nature Walk guides that have been presenting Lithia Park to visitors and residents since 1989. So I open it up for any questions or comments on this design and our process.
Commissioner Weiner?
Yeah, how big would that medallion be across?
Approximately 18 inches in diameter.
It's similar to the size of the one that's right in front of Railroad Park there.
Anybody else? I'm looking, okay, Commissioner Adams.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I just wanted to double check, and it may be warped because I'm logging in directly. It looked like in our package is going to be a round medallion similar to the ones that we see around town. In my view, it looks sort of ovoid tonight, but it's going to be round like the other medallions. I just wanted to check. Thank you.
Yeah, it'll be a round medallion.
Commissioner Weiner, anything? Commissioner Lant, anything?
No, thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Gardner, would you like to make a motion?
Okay. Let me get to that space. I think there was a motion there, wasn't there? I just lost it.
It's here. Top line.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion, Chair.
Please.
I move to approve the design and installation of the Park Walk Medallion in the sidewalk near the main entrance to Lithia Park.
And I'll second this one.
Once again, appreciate the opportunity to do this. I would just add that the park staff has concluded that they would probably be able to install this medallion in the fall when they do some other sidewalk work. So our goal would be to get the medallion made over the course of the summer and have it available for fall.
And I'll just say that thank you very much for all the work you put in on this, bringing it to us. I like that it is a similar, it follows the theme of all of our other medallions over that I'm seeing around town. I like that big round bronze look. And it's a great tribute to the people who've been doing the work. Anybody else have a comment before we vote? Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Weiner,
Yes.
Commissioner Bachmann,
Yes?
Commissioner Lund,
Yes,
Commissioner Adams,
Yes.
Commissioner Gardner.
Yes.
All yes, motion passes.
Great.
Excellent. And our last item of the evening, number 6, Lithia Park East Hillside Mountain Bike Trail, public input update. And, Interim Director Dials will help us on this one.
Great, thank you. Well, to give an update, the comment period for the Lithia Park East Hillside Mountain Bike Trail opened as quickly as we could get it open, which was June 15th, and comments will be accepted through September 3rd. So far, we have collected and filed over 90 public comments that date all the way back to 2025. There is a direct link on the Parks and Rec homepage that highlights the current public process, ways to give input, and it includes a full link to the full trail proposal. There is a Parks Commission study session on August 5th at 6 p.m. where the trail proposal will be presented only for discussion and public comments. Parks Commission, at this point, Parks Commission regular business meeting on September 9th, potential action on the proposed trail. The proposed trail itself is now marked with biodegradable paint. We looked at doing irrigation flags, and because of the difficulty with keeping irrigation flags in the area and traversing the area, it would be difficult to maintain that. So the red, we'd still have a little bit more marking to do on the red on the uphill section, but the orange downhill section is completely marked. The trail crossings are currently marked with 2 lines, so like this. They're on trees or on the ground. On the ground. We're still working on some specific signage at the trail crossings. The map that the proposer provided, we feel like just needs a little bit of work, so we're trying to make it a little bit better. We're going to put signage at both the entrance and exit points on Pioneer Trail, as well as at the top on Glenview. And then we're going to put signage, specific trail crossing signage on each of the trail crossings on the actual trails. we do have a Trails Advisory Committee next week where we will be discussing having an potential on-site meeting in the actual area. I don't know actually how it would all work yet, but we're going to be discussing that. And then staff, myself and some of the park staff have viewed the full trail site. So we traversed the whole area. It's difficult to see unless you're up there and you're looking at the full big picture. So I'm trying to work with RVMBA to see if they can do some kind of drone footage of the area. I did get a little bit ways today with a new contact to RVMBA that sounds like we will be able to do something. And whether or not that's a video that we show, that we put on the website, that's at the public meeting, I'm not sure how that will be used yet, but I think it's important for people to see the full scope of the area that we're talking about. So my question, is there any additional direction you'd like to give on the public comment period for this? Any other directions you'd like us to go? Any additional information?
Floor is open for comment. Commissioner Gardner?
So is it possible to have staff take commissioners on the path?
Yeah, if we want to avoid a public meeting, we could do it 2 commissioners at a time. And I'd prefer to wait until all the signage is up. So over like maybe like in the next week to week and a half, I could start scheduling those meetings with people who want to come and view from the top. We'll be able to see a lot better I could see on Glenview when I was standing up at the top. Once those signs are posted, it'll be a little bit easier to see kind of where everything is. But we can go stand near Pioneer. We can walk up the trail and kind of see where things are at. And we'd be willing to do that.
Great. I'd like to sign up for one.
Okay.
Thanks.
Me too. Commissioner Weiner?
It feels silly asking you if someone else can do work, but I'm thinking about some of the somewhat endangered plants or at-risk plant areas that are up there that Chris Chambers had noted in his report, and I wonder if there's any way we could talk to Chris and see if he could maybe mark off or flag off those areas so as people go and look. I walked through some of them, I knew which they were. I said, okay, only because I had just been in that meeting. I wouldn't have noticed them otherwise. Mm-hmm. And if you're going off trail, you might go through them, and that might be good to have those protected.
Okay.
Definitely. Thank you. Good idea. Can I see the hands, please? Thank you. We're getting there. Okay, Commissioner Adams.
I don't have any additional requests for staff. I just wanted to thank staff for the work that they've done so that the public can be aware of where this trail runs precisely. I noted that paint stripes recently that could be seen from Glenview, just appreciate the work that's being done. I think it's really helpful to have members of the public know where the trail actually is. In the public comments that we've received thus far, there seems to be a little bit of confusion. So just thanks so much to the staff for all the work that they've done.
Thank you. Commissioner Lant, anything? I'm not seeing your hand, so I assume not.
You're correct.
Okay. Want to double check your direction?
I am going to wait till the signs are up, and then I'm going to schedule some meetings with commissioners to view the site. And then I'm going to check with Chris Chambers on flagging the areas from his forest lands report.
Okay, sounds about right. Thank you. And that brings us to item 8, which is the interim director's report.
Great, I will make this quick. Can you go back to the screen? Sorry. Thanks, Lauren. East Main public improvements are starting soon. Probably within the next 2 weeks or so, you'll start to see some action out there on the East Main property. We had a pre-construction meeting last week before Kevin went on vacation. So exciting things happening. Hunter Park Tennis Courts, we have a pre-construction meeting for that next week. And we expect that work to start sometime in early to mid-August. And GIS will be out there in about a week doing some drone footage so we can do before and after. Oak Knoll Golf Course driving range, we have been working with Public Works. That facility, as you recall, was damaged in the big windstorm we had. And we have insurance money from that damage, right around $185,000. So we're working on plans right now. We're hoping for that particular project to go out to bid here soon. And the funds from the insurance will hopefully pay for that whole project. We have a open house / ribbon cutting for Community Center and Pioneer Hall coming up on July 22nd from 3:30 to 5:30. Hope you can attend. We will have Parks and Rec staff there to talk to people about how you can rent the facility. And we'll have some little snacks and some ribbon cutting. The Epic Ashland and Ashland Folk Collective concerts, we've had 2 so far, June 15th and June 29th. Total estimated over 3,200 people. We have more to come in July. We've got, our next one is on, I believe, July 20th. And I think the next one's, what? And July 27th, so 2 in July. We have a Tanabata event coming up at the Japanese Garden this weekend from 10 to 1. And in Japanese culture, I believe it's you put your wishes on you hang your wishes on a tree. So that will be happening this Saturday. We still have some time if anybody's interested in applying to be on the Trails Advisory Committee. Application deadline is tomorrow, end of day. We have received 5 applications so far for 2 vacancies. So more to come on that. We have ASAC, Ashland Senior Advisory Committee, Recreation Division Advisory Committee, and the Trails Advisory Committee all meeting next week. A reminder, if any of the commissioners want to attend the League of Oregon Cities training for elected officials, the next one, it's next Tuesday, the 14th from 3 to 5 here. I've heard back from Commissioner Weiner that he will be attending. So if you'd like to attend that, you can.
What's the subject on this?
It's a training on the city manager form of government, elected officials, how to engage, those sorts of things.
So it's different than the prior ones.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yeah. And then just a big thank you to the Parks team for the support of on the day of the parade route, Lithia Park activities, and the rec team for the 4th run support. We had over 600 people register for the 4th run this year. So it was a fun day. But that is my report.
Thank you.
And let me know if you have any questions.
Moving on. Items from commissioners or staff. Anybody? We haven't had any meetings to have liaison reports, but anything else at this time? Seeing none, we'll go to the next item, which is upcoming meeting dates. As Interim Director noted, we have a Senior Advisory Committee on July 13th, Senior Center 3:30. Trails Advisory Committee, July 15th, Grove, 5 p.m. Recreation Division Advisory Committee, July 16th, Grove, 3:30. We'll be back here for a study session, we being the commission, on August 5th at 6. And then there's a joint meeting with the City Council here on August 12th. We're the hosts, and we have not determined whether we'll follow that with a short business meeting. Depends on whether we have something urgent. That brings us to the end of the meeting. Meeting is adjourned.